The judge started handing down punishments for using these, but we're still waiting to learn about the other office locations. To talk to parents about the effects this has on them, I want to show you this right here is the car. However, that tree was also hitting this car. It's not because of a wreck like you might think. We were getting off. The girl has injuries that are consistent. This is still a problem for drivers. If you take a look, they found one of these, a lighter, and had brought some water. They also can't smoke on their porches. They have to be several feet away from the home.
We're standing about 100 feet in the air. That's the max height on this ladder. It's also the height of a 10 to 11-story building.
There's about a 12% gap between him and first place. She said that she'd endured years of abuse. Mark Truchet sat with a stunned look on his face as the jury returned its verdict. Come this way up the driveway, this giant root ball actually ripped up some concrete from the driveway, and you can see that it is actually a pretty deep hole now. And then there's a third tree here on top of the garage. If you follow that down right here, you can see these power lines that come across the driveway, and then you see this limb. We obtained records from the State Board of Cosmetology showing at least one of the instructors at the school didn't have the proper license to teach. Dry sinks, dimmed lights, and empty chairs are all that's left inside the Georgia Beauty Academy.
The shop.
Outside, the former students inform customers looking for a haircut or a facial that this place is permanently closed.
Man, we'll miss y'all over here.
I'm crushed. My dreams have been stomped on.
I've always just liked makeup.
Marielle Watring says she was paying for her schooling here out of pocket, but when she saw her school file this week, she says she found these papers.
There were 3 different financial aid papers in my folder. I've never applied for financial aid. There were scholarship papers in my folder, whited out with different numbers.
2 different looking signatures appear on the forms, but Watring says she didn't pen either of them. That's why the Dalton police say they've opened a criminal investigation. Police say 9 students have filed reports against the school in the last week.
All I'm wanting to do is go to school.
Watring and her classmate Pamela Cooper say other beauty schools are telling them their hours may not transfer. Both of their certificates from the Georgia Beauty Academy list an aesthetic instructor who does not appear to have an instructor's license in the state database. According to state law, it's something one would need to teach aesthetics.
So now my 400 and something hours may not even apply. I may have to start all over.
Even if all of this wouldn't have blown up, once I graduated from this school, my license would have meant nothing.
When you Google the Georgia Beauty Academy, you find its website has been taken down. However, using a web archive tool called the Wayback Machine, we found this version of the school's website from October of 2017. You can see they advertise an aesthetics program along with cosmetology and nail programs. However, the school's license from the state only lists 4 licensed cosmetology instructors, no aesthetic instructors.
We've been wronged, and something needs to be done about it.
A spokesperson for the Federal Department of Education tells News Channel 9 the Georgia Beauty Academy failed to report a change in ownership in 2013 when the department says it discovered that this year it revoked the school's ability to accept students on financial aid. Latricia Alley, we're working to figure out what impact that will have on students who were enrolled. This right here is the story that we spent months investigating about how that practice is affecting addicts in our area. Since our report, these bills, both in Tennessee and Georgia, have gained traction. They would outlaw patient brokering. Pastor Steve Morgan went blind nearly 13 years ago, but he says that's not what brought darkness into his life. Recently, he's led dozens of funerals for people who have overdosed on opioids.
But it certainly makes an impact on you.
What saddens him even more tonight is that he's heard about people out there recruiting addicts for treatment centers just to get a kickback. In some worst-case scenarios, the state of Florida found facilities keeping addicts sick so that they could continue to bill their insurance.
I think it's very unfortunate.
addict or patient brokering is a practice Tennessee lawmakers say they're learning about for the first time.
When you called me on the phone, quite honestly.
Senator Bo Watson says after seeing News Channel 9's special report last week, he's passionate about a new bill going through the legislature.
You identified a problem in another state and got curious about it and asked us about it. Even though there was legislation already filed, it may not have risen to this level of consciousness.
The bill would make it illegal for drug rehab centers to hire brokers. Bradley County's district attorney says he supports it.
Where there are continued abuses, it would give us an ability to prosecute those.
At its core, this is a consumer protection bill.
So does Morgan.
I think that we need some leverage because the problem is epidemic proportion.
An epidemic these men are trying to make sure doesn't get worse. Morgan says that he's so troubled by the drug epidemic, he's proposing a plan to build a treatment facility in Bradley County. Reporting live in the newsroom, Hannah Lawrence, News Channel 9. A domestic violence advocate I talked to this afternoon says it's very common for girls to feel sorry for the men charged in their abuse. We want to warn you, some of the images in this story are hard to see.
I almost lost my life.
Tonight, Cordelia Baldridge is back home. Just 1 week ago, her family says she needed this machine to keep her alive.
I have my jaw broken, my nose, I have bruises.
Though her jaw's now wired shut, she was able to tell us about the moment she learned police charged her boyfriend in her beating.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know I was in the hospital.
She says when she came to, seeing these pictures made her cry.
I couldn't believe it, no.
According to an incident report from the Whitfield County Sheriff's Office, investigators found Cordelia unconscious at this home. The report says she was bruised all over with bite marks on her body. Tonight, 19-year-old Michael Ricketts is in jail, accused in her case.
I kind of feel bad, but at the same time, he deserves it.
Baldridge says she was in love with Ricketts and had dated him for months. She says she still feels for him tonight.
I'm kind of worried about him, how does it affect him, mentally, because we've both been through a lot. He's been through a lot, emotionally, and I've been through a lot physically.
She says those feelings are hard to talk about. The easier ones include gratitude for her family. She says she hasn't always respected.
You think they're trying to bring you down, but reality, they're trying to bring you up. I want to focus on the future and not on the past, and we all have a healing to do,
Cordelia told me that Ricketts had never been violent with her in the past. She says he did encourage her to do drugs, though. The police report says deputies found meth in the home where she was found unconscious. This little girl lived in Johnson City, but tonight she's touching lives all across the South. Her family is from Chattanooga and met us today to share her story. At 2 years old,
that girl exuded life.
Little Scarlett Hayes was feisty.
She was independent, rambunctious.
And she loved to be fancy.
And you'd have her in her regular clothes getting ready to leave, and as you're packing the diaper bag, she would come up and she's wearing another princess dress.
She was that little girl that had the princess dress on but liked to play in the mud,
Her parents say she was always trying to keep up with the big kids. Her 6-year-old sister and 5-year-old brother were just 2 people at a pool in Johnson City the day Scarlett was found unconscious.
There were probably 40 people in and around the pool.
Her dad, Michael, says he had just taken off Scarlett's floaty so she could eat. As he was cutting up her chicken, he heard everyone panic.
I saw her being lifted out of the water, and she was limp and blue.
It was gut-wrenching. I felt like my heart was being ripped out from me.
Scarlett made it to the hospital but died the next day. Now she's buried here in Chattanooga, where her parents hope to join her one day.
One day we will come back here, whether it's moving back to Chattanooga or if it's to be buried beside our daughter.
They say their greater hope, though, lies in God's promise that he works all things for good.
It's like the Lord has her in his arms, and he also has me in his arms at the exact same time.
Now filled with a peace that's hard to comprehend, the Hayneses say they believe this is all part of the plan.
At the end of the day, when the Lord is ready for that child or adult to come home, there is nothing that you can do to stop it.
He knew how many breaths he was going to take on this earth, and so we just have to trust that he's going to bring goodness and glory from this.
According to the CDC, drowning is the second leading cause of accidental deaths in kids under the age of 15.
And Hannah, as you said, there were dozens of adults around when this happened.
Yeah, actually, that's not uncommon. CDC research shows that nearly half of child drownings happen within 25 yards of an adult.